Hello, hello. Good morning. Happy Monday, July 7th. You are tuned into the TMI Show. TMI is short for Ted Manila Information Show. But we do actually bring you way too much information, sometimes a little too personal TMI. We've been very good about not doing that lately, Ted.
Yeah,
Too much
we're gonna have
personal
to get back
TMI.
to it. We're gonna have to get back to it. The way the people
Yeah,
have
because
their
I
demand.
would.
Speaking of TMI, so
Yes.
in our 2 minute music thing that like we in the 2 minutes before the show goes live, and
Yeah.
did you notice that the TMI logo that I designed and I still love, by the way, that's a sign of like you've done a good job. Like you designed it like a year ago and you still like it. Anyway, it pulses. It like
Yes. You didn't know that? I did that.
Wait, you did that?
I did the pulsing. Yeah, I edited. So we took that music because like all these scammers on YouTube, despite us getting the no copyright music from YouTube's no copyright library, these scammers keep trying to glom on because now we're getting like tens
Yeah.
and tens of thousands of video
If you see to
short
kind of
views.
explain what happens is they email YouTube and they say we own the
Right.
copyright to that, and YouTube just listens to them and
Yes.
and dings you and maybe even takes your channel down. And they
Like
say
anybody can claim it.
yeah, and so basically they just believe anybody, and so
Right.
they don't have to present any evidence whatsoever.
Nope.
So it's kind of like the LA Times. There's no fact checking,
Yeah.
and then they basically come in and they say, and then you have to prove that you own it or that you have the right to use it, and you're like, but literally,
You're guilty until proven innocent.
you guys say on your own platform, please use this music, and we did, and so it's very strange. Anyway,
Right. So you are guilty until proven innocent.
and
So it's
a
like,
lot of people will pay these people and say like, okay, I'll
right.
pay you, even though they don't own the music at
They don't
all.
own it. So
You could pay them,
that's
and it could happen again and again, right?
yes.
Like,
And so
right.
that's who all the scammers are. So I went and found an Italian music composer that works off donations, and he just does it because, according to his website, these are all his original compositions.
A lot of people
And
do.
he
Yeah, a lot of people have
and
copyright
he
free materials just
yeah, and he posts
for
it
the
up, and
exposure.
right. All he asks for is that you give him his name and his name, on your if you're using his music for whatever, that you give him credit, which I do. His name is Liborio Conti. And he's somewhere in Italy, and he's been making like music, like little short, whatever, because he loves music. So credit to him. We post that up there, and I had to remake the whole pre-roll video because, as you guys know, multiple platforms, it takes a while to sync, right? Because we're streaming on multiple platforms. So we needed that 2-minute buffer so everything syncs up. Rumble,
I
YouTube.
mean, actually, what happens behind the scenes here is kind of complicated.
Yeah, it's
And
very complicated.
it's not. There's reasons for it that are not worth getting
Right.
into, but yeah.
But that's why we did it. And so I'm practicing. I used to be very, very good at video editing. Obviously, when you're a journalist, you kind of have to be a one-woman band. And I started playing around with my editing skills. And I took Ted's logo that he made us last year, the one that you're looking at on the screen here above Ted's head, and I made it pulsate to match the music beat.
I love it. It's at first it was
Doonch,
like
doonch,
it's a little erotic. I won't lie. It looks like something could happen, but it doesn't. And then, but I like the pulsing. It's like, it's ominous.
It's like a heartbeat, Ted. It should be
Right.
sexual pulsating at 10
Well,
o'clock in the morning.
It just depends where you are. Sometimes after reading about, the news, reading about when I see Stephen Miller in the morning, I mean,
Ooh.
sometimes I just get aroused.
Ooh, sexy.
Yeah, no,
that's true.
I mean, he's really made me reconsider my dedication to heterosexuality. And
Yes.
he might be my first man. If he'll have me.
If he would have
Because
you.
I've always wanted to be
Oh, yes.
with a Nazi, racist, psychotic bastard who literally epitomizes the worst of everything about America. and who's so evil that his own family has disowned him.
They're,
Yeah, I've always wanted to.
into that, Ted.
Always
I'm
wanted
just
to
going to
bone
say.
someone like that.
There are people that are into that. I just want to say people that, you know, are attracted to serial killers, that are attracted to like the worst of the worst. Like, and you know, Ted, if we're staying with like the cis straight thing, there are men who are super attracted to Lorena Bobbitt.
Oh, well, I sleep way too soundly to ever be with her. You know what I mean?
Ted, she only cut off one penis one time.
True. She might
in a fit of rage.
As far as we know, she's never done it again.
No. Mm-hmm. She just did it the one time to John Wayne Bobbitt.
Have you heard, speaking of which, so, you know, you're of Laotian extraction, Laos borders Thailand. Have you ever heard of the Thai expression, throwing it to the chickens? So Thai ladies, Thai women are spicy sometimes. They have a reputation for being spicy. And sometimes they bobbitize their men while they're sleeping. They cut off their penises. Yeah, and they say it's called throwing it to the chickens because the traditional Thai house is on stilts and it has chickens like underneath.
So
and there was also a case, you can look it up. There's kind of it's a thing. It's not like it happens every day, but it's not like it doesn't happen every month. It does. And basically someone, like, if they're mad at their husbands for whatever reason, there was one guy whose penis she attached it to a balloon and let it float off. It's true. Throwing it to the chickens. So if you're dating, like if you're a guy who's like into Thai ladies, because American guys often are.
They really are.
They go there, they go to Thailand. They're like, oh, I'll have a docile Asian woman. When I was married, I had people say like, you know, like, what's it like to be married to a docile Asian woman? I was like, oh, I have no idea what that must be.
I don't know. When you find out, let me know.
I was like, I'm not sure that exists, actually. You know, I've never encountered one personally, but, you know, and I had a whole Asian family, but still, I was like, they might exist somewhere. It's millions,
Ted, you've had
people.
two Asian work wives, me and Angie.
Yeah, Angie
docile.
Is not docile. You're not docile. No. There's no docility is like not really like part of the equation, and so it was just like, yeah, very funny. But anyway, so they think, oh, I'm going to go have a docile Thai lady, maybe not so docile at night when you're sleeping. So
you're saying somewhere between happening once, Lorena Bobbitt, to not unusual.
Epidemic. Right. It's. I'm not saying like there's the same Thai ladies do this over and over. I'm sure it's illegal. I mean, you know, I'm sure it's got to be.
If you've done it more than
all the laws, it's got to be illegal. But you know,
oh God,
if anything's illegal, that's got to be illegal.
I had not heard about that. But anyway, my point is, there are people that are attracted to all sorts of.
Sure.
In this case, I would say weird things. So, like, whoever Lorena Bobbitt eventually went on to date or marry, like,
she was a hot Colombian lady, yeah. So
was she Colombian? She was from somewhere else, but I know
they're super spicy. So yeah.
Yes, I had a producer at my RT days, who was the hot Colombian. I told you, with the perfume.
Well, you know what it is. It's like
super hot.
I could see, like, personally, I wouldn't come within 10 counties of Lorena Bobbitt, but if she I could see the appeal. You're like, well, you know, it takes balls to be with this person. Well, maybe that's all you're gonna end up with, but like you know, like I have what it takes. You know what it's like? It's like the Kizilku ladies. Do you know about Kizilku? So the word Kizilku. So you know about how Central Asia has these traditional violent games, right? Like Buzkashi is the most famous, right?
Yes.
Dead goat polo has no rules. People die. They get their eyes gouged out. It's normal.
So weird.
I've seen it.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes.
I would watch. It's the only sport I would watch on ESPN if they had it on. But it's so good. I mean, people die. How cool is that?
I know.
Anyway, but Kizilku, lesser known, is a traditional Kazakh game. It is televised on Kazakh national television. Kizilku involves a woman of marriageable age on horseback next to a man who is her suitor. The woman is basically the object. So what's Kizil Ku means kiss the girl. In fact, Kizil is the etymological root of the English word to kiss. Okay, so Kizil Ku is kiss the girl. Ku is the girl. So anyway, there's at the starting point, the man and the woman dash off about several hundred meters across a pitch with both on horseback. The object of the man is to kiss the girl on the lips.
On horseback?
Now she may on horseback at a full gallop. She can do anything she wants to stop him. Kick him, stab him with a knife, knock him off the horse. She can whip him across the face and does. And so it's
because she doesn't want to be kissed, or that's the object of the game.
That's the game. It's sort of like she always resists, and it's kind of like there's great controversy in the Kazakh world. Is it possible that sometimes when the guy wins, that it's because she likes that guy? And anyway, and then the marriage is consumed in the yurt of love immediately after. However, when I saw this game, it was a woman who was was 600 times undefeated, and every Kazakh guy in Almaty was like, "Oh, she's so hot. I want that. I would do Kizil Ku." I'm like, you could end up dead. And it was like, yeah,
she's killed
and
people?
Several have. Yeah, they were trampled to death. And it's like, and they're like, it's worth it. A woman like that, she's so fine. She's so she's a great horseman. You always want a lady who's a good horseman, obviously. So,
Oh my God. Yeah. And so that's
Kizil
what's
Ku.
considered hot. Culture to culture.
Yeah, it's
so
hot.
There you go. Culture to culture.
Well, it's like women performing are always hot, right? Like Chrissy Hind has a face like a knee, but she's hot. Look, she gets up there with that guitar. Like, holy crap, she's hot.
Yeah. Well, I
mean, and she's mean too. But whatever.
Kizil Ku, Lorena Bobbitt, whatever. Stephen Miller.
Too much information.
People find weird things attractive, and I know, maybe it's just me, but as a straight woman, I look at Stephen Miller and I'm like, you just gag. No, gross.
He should by law he shouldn't be allowed to reproduce. He's too
right.
gross. He's too yucky.
No.
Those genes need to end here.
It's not good. It's like he's up there with Brian Stelter from CNN. Gross. He has 3 or 4 children. A woman married Brian Stelter and had.
Well, he's not as obviously disgusting as Stephen
3
Miller.
or 4.
With Stephen Miller, even if he never opened his mouth, you'd say, "Oh my God, that man is he's a creature."
I find Brian Stelter equally as repugnant, but on the other side of the political spectrum.
That's because you know his politics. If you just saw that guy at Home Depot, you wouldn't think anything. He
wouldn't be at Home Depot.
He'd just be a dude. That's true. He wouldn't be at Home Depot.
Brian Stelter would not be at Home Depot, Ted. Let's be honest. He'd be at Home Goods.
yes, he would. That might be true.
All right. That's enough fun for a Monday.
Let's go.
So welcome to the show. I'm Manila Chan.
Over. The fun part of the show.
Fun's over. Now we're going to talk about.
Leave. Yeah. All right.
That's right. The fun talk is over. I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rall. We're live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So guys, please be sure to hit the like and the follow button, the subscribe button, wherever you're consuming this content as our little show grows. But anyway, now you guys know the background as to why we play that 2-minute video roll and why it has changed multiple times over the course of several months because of all those damn scammers out there and YouTube allowing the bad behavior. They're just allowing it. And people to claim that's my video, not just the music. I'm talking about any video. It could be a video of Donald Trump picking his nose that Jane Schmo posted on her Instagram. Any old person could claim that's my copyright video. And YouTube's like, "Oh, it is? Okay, we're going to ding the TMI show now."
Yep.
And then we have to prove how we didn't steal content because it's posted on social media and it's public view. But, YouTube.
All right, let's do the news, awesome. Manila. Let's do it.
Let's do that. We're stealing the news, Ted.
Yeah, well, the news is free. sort of.
We'll see. All right, let's head to the news because nothing happened this weekend. We're just
No, never.
Not at all. Here we go.
Day weekend. We had no show on Friday, the 4th of July, but Donald Trump, unlike the TMI show, was at work. He held a big, beautiful bill signing, complete with B-2 bombers, which he's been using pretty much for everything lately. Let's just hope he doesn't.
Doesn't that cost a lot of money to fly?
It does. I hope he doesn't get his next divorce using a B-2 bomber. Anyway, the most sweeping policy achievement of his second term so far is the big, beautiful bill that includes tax cuts, eliminates taxes on tips and overtime, although, frankly, this only affects 2.5% of American workers, gets rid of Medicaid funding for millions of workers, most of them poor, most of them in flyover country, most of them Republican, gets rid of food benefits, gets rid of clean energy, because God knows we don't need that, and it'll add $3 trillion to the national debt. Trump said it was his biggest victory yet in his remarks before the signing. It's the most popular bill ever signed in the history of our country, he said. Like some other things that Trump has said, that is not true. Actually, a June 26th Quinnipiac poll found that only 29% of voters support the bill. 55% are against it. That means it includes Republicans who don't like it. 16% didn't know anything about it. So clearly, I don't know, if 29% is the most popular bill ever signed in the history of our country, we should close up the country. Okay, anyway, earlier in the day, Americans took to the streets to protest the BBB at Free America demonstrations, the latest in a series of lamely named left of center demonstrations. About 300 events are listed on the Women's March website. My apologies here. Participants are speaking out about what they see as an authoritarian president who works only for billionaires. Well, that would seem to be a fair accusation here. The passing was very, very narrow. The House passed it 218 to 214 on Thursday. Every Democrat voted no. Every Republican voted yes, except for Thomas Massie of Kentucky and Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. Hakeem Jeffries, they say, tried to delay the vote. Well, I mean, didn't try very hard. He talked for 8 hours and 45 minutes, breaking the House record for longest floor speech. Manila, I would have been impressed, honestly, if Hakeem had blown through Trump's deadline for signing on the 4th and had talked 28 or 38 hours, and then just to mess with Trump. I would have been it wouldn't have changed the outcome, but it would have been, aside from a seriously impressive record, it also would have it would have fucked with Donald. He wouldn't have gotten
if
his
he was
B2
allowed
flyover
bathroom
on
breaks,
the 4th and all that.
If Hakeem Jeffries was allowed if the floor rules were that you could take bathroom breaks, I'm sure he would have continued.
There's a workaround, Florida murder astronaut style, right?
I was gonna say, if you're really committed, catheter route.
Oh, well, that's true.
You're really committed.
Of all the things I really don't want to have happen to my penis, including Lorena Tabbitt Bobbittized, having it catheterized is a close second. That's never happened to me, and I hope it never does. But I would do that if I were Hakeem Jeffries. I would, but I would have just used Depends. I would have just
nice and easy. I'm sure Joe Biden left a whole bunch laying around, all over the Capitol.
True.
I think that was part of his
always
IRA.
Dianne Feinstein's leftover ones.
That's true. That's true. I'm sure her office is full of those. There are wheelchairs all you can just
Bernie
claim
might have a few he could throw Hakeem's way.
I don't think Bernie is incontinent though. I think he's still
83, man. He's getting there.
No, but it doesn't matter. I think there are a lot of 80s. I mean, Warren Buffett's 92, and he's you said, he's still having his threesomes.
That's true. He's keeping two ladies happy.
Well, I don't know if it's him that's keeping them happy or his bank account, Ted. But either way, so I read it was Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, and Rand Paul that voted against the bill in the Senate.
That's correct.
And then Lisa Murkowski, there was this big hubbub because she flipped. She was part of that Senate group that was we're not voting for this.
Yep.
Congress, I mean, it fell the way We expected it. And in the House, the Republicans that were supposed to stand up against it, Andy Biggs and Chip Roy, they had demanded amendments, but then they fell in line. So everybody just got chicken shit at the end, like they always do. And so we're going to see a lot of new changes. I think the vast majority of Americans, I don't think are going to feel the effects, if not immediately, if at all. But for the 20 plus million people who will be impacted, these are the lower income people, the people that are on Medicare, Medicaid. There's going to be a lot of stricter guidelines, a lot of like checks and double checks and triple checks to see if you actually qualify. There's going to be work requirements. They say for able-bodied people ages 19 to 64, I think is the spread, that you'll have to work. I think they said like 80 hours a month or something like that.
Which, by the way, means no self-employed person will be able to get it because you have to prove your hours. So, like, let's say you're like us, okay? I mean, these hours don't count. So if we did this 40 hours a week, we would be considered, for the purpose of the Trump administration, to be unemployed and lazy.
Right, and we would be thus ineligible for SNAP or Medicare, Medicaid. All of those.
So basically, it's like they've set up requirements that are not possible for many. Met. 40% of Americans are self-employed, so they're basically
what?
Yeah, they are. So they're ruling out basically. It's this whole idea that they've set everything up like for W-2 workers. That's antiquated as hell.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, most people are
we're in the gig economy. We're in the gig economy.
Yeah, a lot of people, by the way, have like 10-hour-a-week jobs, 20-hour, and they cobble everything together. I know lots of people who have.
I did that.
I mean, hell,
back in my
most college professors are adjuncts and they work at 3 or 4 schools. Those people don't qualify under.
Oh, is that how that works? Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're a 1099 worker, you don't get it. Also, if you don't itemize your tax deductions as a tip worker, you don't get it. You don't get the deduction. And most tip workers don't itemize. So basically, this is all a scam.
I thought no tax on tips was on there.
Yeah, no tax on tips is basically no one's going to be able to take the deduction because of the way that they wrote the law. It's like basically it's an itemized tax deduction, but if you're a tip worker, you're probably taking the standard deduction.
Yeah, most tip workers do just take the standard because it's just less headache and
it's less,
whatever.
It's more money, right? The deduction
is it? Does it come out that way?
The only reason to take the itemized deductions is if they add up to more than the standard deduction. Yeah, and for most people they don't, even with this. So the truth is, this is the Trump. The Trumpies have really, really, really bent over their base and given it to them from behind, balls deep with no lube. I mean, it is like a rough fuck over.
Yeah, I think this is very evident that
it's Republicans who are Republican voters are going to suffer far more than Democratic voters here.
For sure. By next year, for sure. So here's the complaint I'm always seeing, both from our own viewers in the Rumble chat and the YouTube chat, as well as like other people I know, is that Trump campaign. I mean, this is every politician though. They stump one way, right? And in Trump's case, America First is a moving target as Donald Trump defines it, I suppose.
America First is extremely vague, right? It's
right. Like what does that really actually mean? So he goes in, he wins, second term as 47, number 45, and then number 47. So now he goes in, he was supposed to be even more balls deep into MAGA in a serious way, right? And because the argument is now he has experience, he knows how this works. That is not happening.
No,
because within a couple of months, there's always the neocons in his ear, whether they're warmongers like Mark Levin or these
Well,
jackholes like Mike Johnson
this is
chattering.
1981 Ronald Reagan trickle down economics all over again. It's literally like, let's cut taxes to the super wealthy, and they'll invest and they'll create jobs. Blah
It
blah
is his
blah.
2017 tax cuts. It is that.
Did not
It's that
happen.
all over again.
Did not work at all in 1981. Proved not to have worked. The Reagan economy, there was never a Reagan boom. The Reagan economy sucked ass. I know, I was there for it. And
you worked in banking.
I did. 81, 82, 83, 84 was a deep recession. The stock market crashed in 87. If I want to be really fair and charitable to the Gipper, there was a upward tick in 85 and 86, 2 years. And that's it. Never to be seen again. And
wow.
And I mean, honestly, it was not widespread and it wasn't impressive. Blink and you miss it. It's like basically it's between, between 16 candles and the Breakfast Club, poof, right? And that's it. So it's just like not, this is not, it's not going to work. All it's going to do is line the pockets of Trump and his wealthy friends. Ironically, Trump's
900 pages, Ted, 900 pages.
Ironically, Trump himself doesn't really have his billionaire friends don't really like him, right? I mean, he's sucking up to them, but they think he's an asshole. And so honestly, he should have stuck with the people who brought him. Molly Ivins always said that. Dance with them that brung you,
Yeah.
It's like he wasn't brought to this ball by the billionaires. He was brought to it by the populists.
You're right. You're supposed to stick with the boy that brought you to the dance. I mean, if you want to go on a second date later, fine. With somebody else, go on a different date with another boy. Make that a different day. But at prom, you came with Bobby. You go home with Bobby. Like that's
Trump came with the MAGA populist right, and the former
and he's going home with the neocons,
Pat Buchanan people. Yeah, and he's like slurpling the neocons, sticky juices. That's what he's doing.
What is it, kizzy coo?
Yeah, he's kizzle cooing. Like, yeah, he's kizzle
cooing the neocons.
Like, yeah, it's
and I guess that leads us perfectly into why the next story is a thing,
which is interesting. So, Elon Musk, who fell out with Trump because during the Doge stuff, but then made up with Trump, but then fell out again over the big beautiful bill because he's really upset over the spending package here. At least that's what he says. Basically, has announced that he's going to form a new party called the America Party. He's already created an X feed, which he was talking about how it's going to be the great majority, the moderate majority. Trump said that that Musk is off the rails. I'm saddened to see Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck over the past 5 weeks. Trump wrote, he even wants to start a third political party, despite the fact that they have never succeeded in the United States. So this is basically where it is at. Musk said, today the America Party is formed to give you back your freedom. Well, I mean, that's not only not true, it can't be true. You can't just blink your eyes and start a political party. But, the devil's in the details. So here's the thing. I mean, I know a lot about
didn't Andrew Yang tried this just a couple of years ago.
Well, Andrew Yang tried to not really start a political party. He just ran he had his candidacy and he was hoping that it would spark a movement. Currently what we have two third parties, really, the Green Party and the Libertarian Party.
Yes.
The most successful third party in recent history is Ross Perot's Reform Party, that got 19.2% of the vote in the presidential election in 1992. And I would say arguably he took more of the votes away from George H.W. Bush than from Bill Clinton.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's fair to say that Clinton won the presidency due to that. And so, the Reform Party lingered on into 1996 and 2000. Pat Buchanan, I believe, was the 2000 presidential candidate for the Reform Party. And then it basically trickled away to find other really significant third-party runs. You have to go to John Anderson in 1980. He just ran as an independent. He didn't have a party. 1948, you have two third parties that are of great significance. Henry Wallace's Progressive Party, and the States' Rights or Dixiecrat Party under Strom Thurmond. In 1968 and 1972, George Wallace, the Southern segregationist, ran as a third-party candidate. You got to go back 7 something.
I like the other Wallace.
Went to what's his name? Henry La Follette in 1924, Progressive Party. Today 7%.
1912 was Teddy Roosevelt.
Would have moved the needle today. 7%'s a lot, but the Coolidge had such a major advantage over Davis in 24 that he couldn't catch up. And yes, Teddy Roosevelt
you mentioned
in 1912.
That's his party, right?
Bull
the
Moose
Progressive Party.
That's right. The Bull Moose Progressive Party was
that their full name?
Well, it was the Progressive Party, and their symbol was the Bull Moose.
Oh, I think of like Rocky and Bullwinkle. So because I don't really know what
it's like that. It's
a
moose.
Bull Moose is.
And,
but didn't he take like 27% or something like that?
It was very significant.
It was substantial.
It definitely denied his former protege, William Howard Taft, re-election in 1912, and it handed the presidency to Woodrow Wilson, the Democrat. So, it was a spite. It was a spite candidacy. TR was really pissed off at Taft. He had groomed Taft, and then he didn't think that Taft had followed through on his progressive principles, which was frankly pretty true.
It was a spite party.
Yeah, it was a spite party, kind of like in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
When the spite coffee shop.
Spite coffee shop, exactly, a spite store. So that's basically what happened. So, I mean, and you can go, I would say without a doubt, the most successful third party in American history is the Republican Party, which was a third party from 1850.
Java Joe versus Latte Larry's.
Exactly. So in 1856 to 1860, the Republican Party was a third party, and it won in a four-way race and elected Abe Lincoln in 1860. So that's the most successful third party. Right.
Well, so Donald Trump is full of shit. Well, okay, I take this one back. I mean, he's full of shit, but not for this. But there's a sound bite of him floating around, talking smack on Elon and saying third parties always fail, nobody wants them, whatever. He's wrong. They do want that. He's absolutely wrong.
The system doesn't.
They don't always fail. I think it's just that he doesn't actually know history and actually he can't even think back to, for him, fairly recent history was the Ross Perot candidacy, which did
1 out of 5. When 1 out of 5 voters votes for you, that shows that people
big.
want it. By the way, you know who the biggest proof in the world is that people want a third party? Donald Trump. Okay, so Donald Trump,
right? Just co-opted.
I've always said for years that the reason that the United States and other two-party countries have the lowest voter turnout of any of the electoral democracies is because two parties isn't enough to represent a country with hundreds of millions of people and our great, massive diversity of opinion. And so, if you ever had the choice of voting, you would find that a lot of the people who don't vote in our elections, they're not apathetic. They just don't like the choices. So Donald Trump, his big accomplishment in 2016 was to get millions and millions of people who had literally never voted before to show up and vote for him. And they did. And he took over the Republican Party. He is himself proof of the hunger for a third party. He basically took over the Republican Party. But now people are going to... So it's funny that he should say that. I think the whole key is the system is really set up to prevent a president to be elected from a third party. Pete, here's why. Manila, let's say Manila, you run for president in 2028. Okay, and let's say it's a three-way race between you, the Democrat, and the Republican. Let's say you get 40% of the vote, a plurality, but not a majority. Let's say you get 45% of the vote, and then the rest of the vote is split by the other two dudes, well, you should win, right? But no, that's not right, because you probably won't get 270 electoral votes. You have to have half of the electoral vote. So what happens then? The Constitution then kicks the election to the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives is currently controlled by the Republican Party. They will vote for the Republican, and you lose. Let's say let's vote, or if the Democrats take over next year, which seems likely now, then the same thing. They vote for their person. So, but those obstacles don't exist for other jobs. You can run for governor of a state, and if you get a plurality, you win. You can run for a mayor of a city. Look at Mamdani. He got 43% of the vote in New York City. That's a plurality. It's a landslide, actually. Number two only got like 37%. So the point is, you can win with a plurality. The key to starting a successful third party is to build it from the grassroots, not from the top down. I don't know if Elon Musk understands that.
Well, besides that, okay.
Plus,
before
he
Elon
president anyway, because he's not born here.
Well, right. Before Elon can just launch this party, let's go backwards to the stuff I've said for years on our old radio show, Ted, is that our electoral process is shit. It's from the ground up broken, fundamentally at its core on either party. First of all, it's not a truly federalized system because the Republicans have their own way of running their elections, right, and nominating process. The Democrats have their own way of electing somebody and nominating somebody with their bullshit super delegates and all of this shit that actually supersede.
Republicans do have some super delegates. I looked into this recently, just not as many. They vote in a more simple and plain to the point kind of a way. That's true.
The Democratic Party has this complicated ring around the rosy, then we all fall down, who stands up, and then let's push Mary off the cliff, and then that's how that happens.
While you smoke a cigarette.
Right. That's the DNC has all these weird, mystical, magical ways of selection rather than election, because we wouldn't have gotten Biden had they not done the selection against Bernie, right? So first, we need to fix how the parties get the person up to the top of the ticket, number one. We need to fix the federal election laws about how much money can be put into all of this. We need to flip Citizens United. We need to flip. There's all these things that Elon should be focusing on first, instead of this tempestuous, I broke up with my boyfriend, so now I'm going to show him. I'm going to get revenge bod. That's what he's doing here with his revenge body by saying, we're going to focus on the 2026 midterms. We're going to unseat a couple senators. We're going to unseat a couple House members with our new party. So he says that's really what it is. So, but when asked, well, what does your party actually stand for? Musk is, it's very vague. There's no real platform. He just said, keep the debt low, upgrade the military, probably with his cloud service or whatever.
What does he mean, upgrade the military? The military is bloated beyond belief.
Push technology and stay center ground. I'm reading a quote from him. That's it. He said, four things.
Those are just words. They don't mean
What does
anything.
It mean? It means nothing.
It's so airy. It's it's like Elon. Okay, so let's talk about the issues that currently the American people say they care the most about. High prices. Okay, none of those things are going to address high prices. What are you going to do about migration?
Ballooning college debt.
Immigration policy. Yeah, college debt. What are you going to do about college prices, which are out of control, and yet colleges and universities are themselves broke? So, what's going on? How are you going to fix that? That's tough. What are you going to do about?
You can't just say you stand for these four things.
Are you going to still send more money? Are you going to keep sending money to Netanyahu? Are you going to still send money
keep
to Zelensky?
The debt low, but upgrade the military? Those are oxymorons. You cannot have the two.
54% of federal spending goes to the military. You can't. You're right, Manila. You're right. When you have that's your biggest expense. It's sort of like saying, oh well, I'm trying to save money on my monthly budget.
But Ted, I have to spend $2,000 a month on prostitutes. I have to.
Well, or I want to buy a more expensive house It's like, that's housing's your number one expense. That's probably that's not the place you should be increasing. So,
well, see, housing is a necessity, Ted.
well,
Prostitutes are not.
You could argue that the military is maybe like they would say it's. I mean, yes,
I would say the military is more akin to. Military is more akin to me to a prostitute.
I calculated it. We could cut the defense budget by 95% without breaking a sweat. No problem. Our
military spending is that of the next 10 countries below us.
Yeah, who, by the way, all have massive defense budgets. Right? I mean, China does not have a small military. Like Russia does not have a small military. India, not a small military. France, major arms exporter.
We're not talking about militaries of. Yeah. We're not talking like, Monaco and Liechtenstein's militaries. Like,
right.
We're talking about real countries.
Yeah.
Real
Eritrea.
countries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like 10, like Laos's military. We're not talking those 10 countries combined. We're talking 10 serious military fighting force countries.
The only thing I could hope for is that now this is extremely not going to happen, but what one would like to see is, Elon obviously doesn't have a mind for politics. I'm sorry. There's never been any evidence whatsoever that he knows anything about politics. I'm sorry. He's not as qualified as...
He's a businessman.
You're
I get it.
Garden variety blogger. Okay. So the point is, but let's just say he created the infrastructure and then reasonable people hijacked it the way that, Trump hijacked the GOP. And Bernie tried to hijack the Democratic Party. Let's say that happened. You have to have follow through to build a third party and do what the Republicans did in the 1850s and become, or what Andrew Jackson did in the 1820s when he created the Democratic Party. You can't just do one election with a presidential candidate. You do it twice. You hope for the best. Oh, well. I mean, this has to be a 50-state effort where you're electing people to the school board. You're running candidates for dog catcher, for everything, right? County commission, city council. And you start up from there. And those people all have to be funded so that they have a chance of winning. Right. And then you have to, he is young. He could do this. This is a 25-year.
He needs to look at George Soros.
It's a 30-year project. Well, George Soros just gives money to the Democratic Party.
No. There's an intricate. It's too long for us to get into.
But he doesn't give money to the left. Show. George Soros does not support leftists. He didn't give any money to Bernie Sanders.
No, he gives it to the Democrats. But what I'm saying is the infrastructure is there, and he donated to build the infrastructure within the DNC and other wings of the DNC and all these 501c3s and blah 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 that do your groundwork, the legwork for you. That's how this works, right? In terms of local politics and then greater regional politics, you have to have a ground game. Elon is trying to start up here.
That's what but everybody does
starting here.
Every third party makes that mistake. The Greens, the Libertarians, they all do it.
Right.
By the way, how hilarious is this quote that you have up here from Trump? The only thing that third parties are good for, Trump says, is for the creation of complete and total disruption and chaos. Disruption and chaos is Trump's brand, right? Literally, that's what he brings to the table. A lot of people who like him think that's a feature, not a bug.
Right.
Like, what, I love that. You know that Chinese movie, Hero, which is about the first Chinese emperor. And the first Chinese emperor, during the Warring States period, he methodically, with incredible violence, conquered all of his rivals and killed them. And then after the fields of China were soaked in the blood of the Chinese, and he conquered everyone and unified China into the empire we know today, he said, "Now it is time for peace." And I was like, well, of course it's time for peace now because you've won and you've killed all your rivals. It's like Trump's doing the same thing. After massive amounts of disruption, after October, after January 6th, talk about disruption and chaos. And then it's like challenging the election, blah, blah, blah.
Who made all this disruption and chaos?
And now he's like, but now he's the president. He's like, now is the time for peace. Like
Right.
he said that after he bombed Iran. That was his first message, right? Like, now is the time for peace. You just dropped 14 30,000-pound mini nuclear bombs on Iran. Of course, now is the time for peace.
So
you
Robbie says,
warmongering asshole.
Robbie says that we're missing something. The fact that Elon owns X. I think that's actually only, if not completely irrelevant, only slightly relevant, and I'll tell you why. While I agree that social media plays an important cultural role.
It elected Donald Trump.
The first time, but I think the first time, but not. I think if Elon's goal with his America Party, whatever the hell it stands for, if his goal is to disrupt and flip a couple House seats and disrupt and flip one or two, Senate seats, you're not going to get that accomplished by only because you own Twitter. Like, I get it. You're probably the most followed man on Twitter. I get it. Like, he has more followers than probably anybody, more than Donald Trump, I imagine. I'm not sure, but I think somewhere right around there. So I get that you can move social ideas or social conversation, but how that translates to real life are two different things. And I think you can mobilize to only a certain extent. And when you're trying to flip seats in Congress, I don't think Twitter alone is going to cut it for Elon. So I don't think that's enough. I think he needs to look, if he's really serious about this. One, you need to file with the FEC. He hasn't filed. The FEC has yet, as of this morning on Monday, July 7th, the Federal Elections Commission has not received official paperwork yet.
There's no rush. I mean, he can do that. Look, I think I'm gonna be sort of the in the spirit of Elon Musk, the militant moderate between you and Robbie here. I think X is a factor for sure. Controlling X is the platform for political social media. So
for discourse.
And for politics, right? Nothing else.
But I don't think it moves
in this country
off the screen.
Now, that said, but I agree with you, Manila, at the same time, that if you don't have a core message that resonates with with a sizable sector of the electorate, you got nothing. And like we have seen time and time again, people like Thomas Friedman and David Brooks bloviate about the need for a mushy, moderate middle that represents, where most people really are at. And the problem with all that is there's an assumption that centrism and moderation are reasonable. They're not always reasonable. I mean, let's say you have people who can't afford healthcare, helping 50% of them is not reasonable. Everybody needs healthcare. Only a radical solution makes sense. But also, it's not true. The polls don't show that. The truth is that the middle has been completely hollowed out. Again, who else knows that? Donald J. Trump. Like, he had a complete base strategy in all three of his presidential elections. He's never tried to reach out to Democrats or moderate Democrats the way Democrats try to do with Republicans. It's like there's the growth in this country is on the far left and on the far right. That's where there are tens of millions of disenfranchised voters who would turn up if they were motivated. There's no appetite for another centrist party. We have a center left and we have a center right party right now. They're taken care of, Elon. I mean, Elon literally, it's really crazy that someone who is so smart that he understood how to revolutionize the electric vehicle sector, and he knew that the whole thing had to be about creating these charging stations and making this network. That's right. Nobody else could see it. It was obvious. He got that. But this guy's so smart. But when it comes to politics, he's a tard. He just doesn't know anything.
Yes.
I mean, sorry, he's stupid. He just doesn't.
I think there's ideas.
And he doesn't know what he doesn't know. There. He should call. He should call us. We would tell him what to do.
I think the ideas are right, and I appreciate. I mean, even if I don't agree with many of Elon's wild things, but sometimes I do agree with him. But I think his I don't think he actually has in terms of politics, a ground game plan of execution. And I don't think he has people around him. I mean, it's not really his world, right? He doesn't have the people around him
enough
to help him.
To get those people. I mean, like, let's say
he's a tech guy.
let's say for some reason I was super rich and I was like, I'm going to open a sports franchise. I don't know anything about sports. I never watched sports, right? Well, what would I do? I'd tell my assistant, like, call up Mark Cuban, invite him to dinner.
Right.
Like, I want to
Let me
find
pick
out
his
about
brain.
sports. I mean, and so again, I don't know why Elon Musk doesn't talk to people in academia and in journalism, who are really the people who know the most about politics, not like other politicians.
Not politicians. No.
Politicians don't really know that much about politics. It's really historians, political scientists, and journalists. That's it.
Right.
And so, bring those guys in. I would bring in if I were him, I'd bring in a panel from far left, like me, all the way to far right, like Robbie, and every shade in between. And like,
Ted, how much should we charge him for consulting?
He's a rich fucker.
What should we charge him? What should TMI Show charge Elon for consulting?
$10 million seems like nothing.
For a 1-year contract?
Here, I'm going to quote a line from The Day of the Jackal. The Day of the Jackal is an assassin hired by people who want to kill the president of France and take it over.
Oh, yes.
And he asks for, I believe, $1 million at the time. This is like in the
That's it. 1 million.
1 million. But it's the early 1960s, so it's a lot of money at the time, or maybe it's $10 million. But anyway, the people who hire him complain about the price, and he goes, considering that you're going to get France in the bargain, seems like a good price. And I would say that to Elon. You're looking to acquire the United States of America.
Right.
So it seems to me like, $10 million is a low price.
And then we'll get the ground game going for you. We'll consult you.
And we'll bring in some right wingers, some centrists, some lefties, everyone. And we'll some academics, some theorists, historians,
right.
And we'll tell you how to avoid all the mistakes that everyone always makes. And
we're pitching to Elon Musk right now, live on air.
Rookie error is to throw out dumb gay policies like, oh, we'll be tech forward and
fucking platitudes.
And we're gonna help our military.
Look, when you are creating, for example, he's a tech bro, right? I mean, when you're creating a piece of technology, when you're creating SpaceX and you're going to do the Falcon 9 rocket that's going to re-land itself, right? After it shoots up into the air, blasts off the shuttle, and then the rocket is reusable. It lands itself. It guides itself back down. Cool. You don't just say, I have this idea. How are we going to do it? I don't know, man. It's just going to go up and somehow it's going to navigate back down.
Forward. It'll involve atmosphere stuff and physics. We'll do
I don't know,
stuff.
Is the wind blowing too far to the west, or there's an actual plan before you shoot the Falcon 9 rocket up into the air, right? Each day of fucking launch, you don't just say, I'm going to launch the Falcon 9 this day and we're going to replenish and restock stuff at the International Space Station. There's an actual plan in place for every single launch. Why is he treating this launch of a political party any differently than down to the scientific method of launching his rocket? He should look at it the same way, with the same kind of details, surrounded by the same types of minds that can tell you every detail, from the weather, from the type of metal that's used on the rocket. You need specialists for every little piece of detail of your project, but he's treating this like, I would say, the same way Andrew Yang, the Yang Gang, decided we're going to be the forward party. Shut up, Andrew.
Also, he made the same mistake, right? This militant, moderate, like kind of stupid, namby-pamby politics. Vivek Ramaswamy also kind of made some of the same mistakes. These are guys who I don't think they have enough respect for politics. Like, what they don't understand is they look at it and they say, well, the voters are stupid and gullible. True. It's like the journalists are stupid and gullible. Also true. The system is poorly conceived. Also true. But that said, it is a complicated and difficult to understand system that all comes together in some very weird and unpredictable ways.
Because there is that je ne sais quoi, right? Like cannot.
It's like cooking. It's like, any asshole can break an egg and make an omelet, But if you want to make like, if you want to be a 3-star Michelin rated restaurant, which is what you're talking about here, then, that's different. You can't be and even being a short order chef at a good diner is different from like making your own eggs at home. So it's like, he's looking to, he's literally looking to open, the mother of all restaurants here, in Paris, where people are going to be watching.
This is going to be a doomed mission, right? As of right now,
unless he seeks help, unless he brings in some intelligent people.
I'm just saying the launch is doomed.
If it were me, if I were him and I had billions of dollars and I really wanted to see a third party, and I do really want to see a third party,
I would love to see a successful.
I would say
party.
The way to handle this is to have some humility and say, look, I will create the shell. I will create the structure. It won't be Ted Rall's party. It'll be your party. And you guys come in, and as the people, in a small d democratic way, you're gonna hash it out. You're gonna figure out what you stand for, and what I will do for you is, once you do that, I will pay the filing fees and and pay the petition.
I'll foot the bill.
I'll pick up the tab, but you guys go do democratic stuff. Right, you guys go take over the country and go kick ass. But it's not Ted Rall's top-down vision. It's got to be whatever the American people who want this party want, and you got to get out of the way. Unfortunately, I don't think guys like this, they have that mentality.
I think that the sweet spot for the new Musk party, whatever it's called, America Party.
The Muskrat
Party.
First of all,
your branding is dumb. The America Party, that's a bad name.
Terrible. It's, by the way, it's been tried.
Terrible.
There was an American party in the late 1960s. And why have you not heard of it? Yeah, exactly.
That bad branding, number one. Number two, I think the sweet spot would be that critical overlap between the far right true MAGA, like a Robbie, with the far left Ted Rall types. We have found populism. When I've introduced you to this, there's a sweet spot that there's this nice overlap where, in a Venn diagram, because that's really what we're playing with here, is like the uniparty that is one bubble.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie and I. Robbie and I might not agree on creationism, but you know what? Who cares?
But you guys agree on housing.
But that doesn't affect politics
on
anyway.
Wages,
right? Exactly.
Like you agree on the fundamental things that affect every American to the core, right? Unless you're some gajillionaire like Elon Musk himself, everybody else that's in the middle, that's kind of a little poorer to the middle in wealth, or a little slightly better off than the middle, but everybody kind of exists in the middle. And there are people that the main things that they care about is, it's not necessarily the budget, and you can't portray it as a budget, because that falls on deaf ears, right? If you're talking about a budget, the Doge thing, that wasn't popular. You didn't sell it right. You need to sell it in the way of how, one thing I learned when I first started working in media, in radio at Clear Channel, Ted, one of the first things they taught me in like my Clear Channel school, they said, Manila, every radio listener, and mind you, this is like 2006 or 2007, they said, the listener only listens to one radio station. And I was like, what? How can that be? And they said, WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
And Doge did not sell that. And Musk needs to sell.
When I worked for David G. Hall, who was a legendary program director at KFI, he said that only one metric: is it relatable? Right. And let me just tell you, the Democrats lost the last election because all of their frou-frou, like, democracy is on the ballot, isn't relatable.
And what does a woman
affect me or my life or my family?
What is a lady, Ted? Can a lady have a penis that can be chopped off?
Who can say what a woman is?
Who can truly know? And when you talk in those nebulous terms, it falls on deaf ears, and you will lose.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a woman. That's where the trans thing falls apart. Like where, when people are like, well, a woman is an arbitrary construct. It's like,
is your mom a woman?
Yeah,
your mom,
because whoever's listening to this is either a woman themselves, and I'm pretty sure they know what a woman is, or you're a guy And you also know what a woman is. So it's like, come on, give
Well,
me a break.
Robbie has a comment before
please.
We have to do a word from our sponsor today.
Excellent. Okay, great.
Now, let me tell you how Musk can make this relatable. Super easy. What you do is that you explain why sand is cheap. Sand is cheap because there's a lot of it. So how do you break this down to the level of the basic American voter? Ted, you're going to love this, and so are you, Manila, because you're both journalists. You hold up a picture of Time magazine from, let's say, 1990. The price tag's right there on the front, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you hold a picture of Time magazine today with the price right there on the front. It's more expensive now. Why is that? The magazine is smaller. There's not as much there, but it costs you more. Why?
It's not even perfect bind anymore.
And then what you do is that you correlate that with inflation. Inflation is not rising prices. Inflation is the expansion of the money supply. The more dollars that you print, the less value every dollar in circulation has. And then you explain, this is why your rent is so high. This is why you can never buy a house. That's why the national debt matters, because the government is spending money they literally do not have.
But I would argue with you that's not why the rent is so high. Even the rent would still be unaffordable, even if the government stopped printing money tomorrow.
Well, we don't know
only
that.
Replace the money that was getting torn up or whatever.
Well, we don't know.
If the money supply stayed the same, there's a tendency in capitalism towards aggregation and monopolization. That's why the rent is too high.
Well, that's the extent of it. I mean, I'm a victim of it right now. There's a reason I now live in a shipping container, right? So there's part of that. But remember, the entire objective here is to put something into the people's mind that they can understand. Most people, like your average construction worker, is not going to understand most likely is not going to understand the basics of financial policy. Most politicians can't. So you got to kind of break this down to the cost of living argument. Put it to something that people are able to see. It's like the show right here. It's a visual media. It's the same thing. So all you got to do is sell the idea.
Messaging is vital, right? I mean,
no, 100%.
Obviously.
So you put it into terms that most people can understand. Why does it cost you more now? Like say for Home Alone, the old Christmas classic. You go and you have that little kid. I can't remember his name, but $20. Yeah. You go, you get yourself like several big old bags full of groceries for $20 or $30, whatever it is now. It costs you over $140 to buy that same amount of groceries right now.
Yes.
That's what you do it. And so you say, what is the solution that the Republican Party, I'm looking at you, Angie Wong, what is your solution to fix this problem? What is your solution, Donald Trump, to fix this problem?
They don't have a solution. And neither, frankly, do the Democrats.
Correct. And so that's the pitch. This doesn't have to be complicated. That's the pitch. If Musk is smart enough to bring in the Thomas Masseys and the people who are already the outliers, who Trump is already threatening to primary.
I already called this weeks ago. I said Elon would eventually be backing Thomas Massey financially. And sure enough, here we are. I think Massey would probably take it because he knows. I think Musk is aware that Massey would not be beholden to him regardless. So,
well, why wouldn't you?
I mean there's no reason not to. I mean, look, my pitch, and I don't know if this would fly with the populist right
Make it rain
is a member of, but my pitch is this. Look, obviously, I would love communism, but we're not going to get that. But can we get common ground and say that under our system of capitalism, the most essential services of life that you need to survive, food, shelter, medical care, I would argue a few other things like education and transportation, should be price controlled and in many cases run by government. Everything else, let the free market reign. Everything that's that you don't have to live, everything that's luxurious, everything everything that you don't, everything else.
Disneyland.
Sure, that's up to them. They want to charge, they can charge whatever they want. But in terms of if you have to have it to be alive,
right?
The government is there and is going to step in when the markets fail. When it comes to healthcare, the market has failed. When you can go to a country like Ecuador, which is a poor country compared to the U.S., and get free medical care, age K to 100, there's a problem in the U.S.
When I was at church yesterday, we were having this exact same discussion with one of the boomers, who's like the arch Zionist types, and he was talking about the evils of socialized medicine. As I said, then your position is that this is wrong, right? I said, yeah, it's 100%. I said, then why do we fund Israel's socialized medicine in their country that you are still in love with? If it's good enough for them, why is it good enough for us? Because we're already paying for it. And the answer he had for me was nothing. There was nothing there. The dude just completely blue screened. So I think that you'll be able to see that overlap.
Not to mention, if we didn't pay that $4 billion a year, that would certainly help put a dent in our national healthcare needs.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that the pitch, if you're going for younger voters, which let's be honest, that's what Musk would be doing.
For sure.
That would be the overlap.
Also,
because
the key is not just younger voters. The key is non-voters. That's the big untapped market, right?
That's true too.
Well, that's why Trump won, and those are the same people right now that Trump is screwing over. But the Madani effect shows that the power of the people who have the ability to say "fuck you" to everybody is massive. Mm-hmm. That's why I supported Trump in 2016. I supported him to be a disruptor and blow stuff up. Now he's just more of the same. He's John McCain. So.
Yeah. Everybody we get is always John McCain.
It's always John McCain. So I think that if Musk is serious about this, he'll do exactly what you just said, Ted, that he'll bring everybody in that he can, right, middle and center, and realize that there is no room for a centrist party. You need to be radical. You need to be disruptive, and you need to be there with a blowtorch with a mission of blowing everything up. If he comes in with that mission, he wins, and he has to do it with the Congress. Yeah. No local races, sheriff's office, school board, and your House representative races, because the margins are so close. If he focuses on the House representatives, that's his pitch, is spending bills originate in the House. If he's able to break the duopoly in the House representatives, he has the entire federal government by the balls, and all he has to do is squeeze.
All right. With that, we should probably get a word in from our sponsor because we are over time already.
Put it up.
Let's do that.
I will do it right now.
Okay, I see it. Right, here we go. Feel free to put your own spin on. Oh, so never mind. I'm doing a Biden thing where I'm reading the directions. All right. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just got dropped. Only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom is not scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions, in a black 1775 tumbler that says, "I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch." $170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe.
All right, Ted. So with that, we should probably just blow through these last two stories real quick just to update the news. Not too much commentary in case you guys missed it.
Agreed.
There's Ted. We're going to have our favorite guest in town here in Washington, D.C.
Who's that?
That's the next story.
Oh, okay. All right, here we go.
The real president.
Oh, is it? We should invite him on the show.
The president. The president is coming.
It's the real president.
The U.S. president is coming to town.
It's Trump's boss.
Yeah, he's here to talk to his proxy.
Prime Minister Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu, with the most dignified nickname of them all. Bibi means penis in French, of Israel, landed in Washington on Monday for talks with Trump in what will be their first meeting since the two leaders launched their strikes against Iran, and as Trump pushes for a ceasefire in Gaza. Of course, we already know what happened last month. I'm not going to recap that. With the fighting in Iran over, now he's trying to see if he can pursue a new deal with Iran. He also wants a ceasefire in Gaza. Many in Israel and Gaza hope that the meeting will pave the way for a new truce that would free the remaining hostages. Israel and Hamas previously agreed to two short-lived ceasefires. The last one, I love this weasel word, which Israel ended in mid-March. You mean broke? Saw more than 1,500 Palestinian prisoners released during exchanges for 30 hostages and the bodies of 8 others. Trump said that Israel and Hamas could reach a new agreement as soon as this week. However, things haven't been going very well, mainly because of the Israelis. The latest proposal being discussed stipulates a 60-day truce. Both sides would then start to negotiate an end to the actual war. Both sides might have a reason to agree, though, as Netanyahu headed to D.C., Israeli negotiators went over to Qatar for talks with Hamas, indirect talks about the details of any ceasefire. Netanyahu and Trump will also talk about efforts to make a deal with Iran about their nuclear program after those strikes that may or may not have succeeded last month. While Trump is considering a new nuke pact with Trump, Netanyahu has long viewed any deal with Tehran with enormous suspicion. He was against the previous U.S.-led accord with Iran, which Trump withdrew from in 2018. Again, the word broke seems like a more accurate term.
Yeah, accuracy, Ted. This,
accuracy,
news in 2025. Come on,
yeah,
Ted.
I mean,
so that quick comment. I just want to say, Ted,
this is ceasefire, really.
This is his 3rd trip. Trump has been in office for 6 months. This is Bibi's 3rd visit to Washington, D.C. Just pointing that out. Just saying. It's a lot of FaceTime.
Do you think it would be like rude to ask Bibi to just meet Trump in like the basin of the Guadalupe River and just basically, hey, so we'll be swimming. This is a swimming meeting. I hear a lot of rain is expected. Just saying.
Oh, well, this is just this is one of the time, whenever this guy comes to town, and I guess it was the location of RT's office, which is literally around the corner. I mean, a stone's throw from where Bibi's favorite hotel is. He just jams up traffic because I don't know, Ted, it seems like a lot of people, there's a lot of precautions when Bibi's in town. There's snipers on the roof all over downtown at the hotel that he likes to stay at. And because I, again, would walk past it, going back and forth to get food or whatever, whenever this guy's in town, it's like red alert. DC is on lockdown, and he snarls traffic for miles when this guy's in town. There are snow plows that go completely around the perimeter of the hotel that he likes to stay at. I'm not going to name it because then,
well, so that's where the snow plows are in DC. Because when I've been there, when it snows, there's no actual plows.
No, they use them as barriers.
Yeah,
they use them as barriers.
Yeah, that's like if it snows half an inch in DC, like cities burn. Like basically,
the cities shut down.
No one can drive. It's like chaos.
No, they shut the city down, and they use the snow plows as a barrier around this particular hotel that Bibi likes to stay at. And then they put in the concrete jersey barriers and put it all around. And then they put snipers up on the rooftops all over DC in that area around his hotel. And again, I'm fearful of saying the name of the hotel because I know what it is. I worked there for 10 years. I know when this guy comes to town, I know where he stays. And it is shut down. The whole heart of the city next to Washington, or next to the White House, is completely shut down because the true president of the United States comes to town, and there's no movement. It is worse than having the beast roll out of the White House to travel to wherever he's going. It's worse than that. Literally, Donald Trump doesn't get this kind of treatment when he goes around town in DC, but Bibi does.
Well, let's talk geopolitical very quickly. I don't think that much is going to come out of these talks. Look, the Israelis aren't serious. They are continuing. I mean, they're behaving like fools. This whole Gaza Humanitarian Foundation thing, they're continuing to play cute with that, and trying to block all the food aid into Gaza. I mean, it's a shit show over there. They're still Their approval rating is completely in the toilet. Israel's approval rating with Americans is at a rock bottom, record low. It's the first time in U.S. history that more Americans have sympathized with the Palestinians than the Israelis in this whole thing. I think this is only going to get worse for the Israelis. I mean, enjoy yourself now, baby, but this gravy train's coming to an end. I don't know when, but it's not 10 years. It's not 10 years. I mean, it's not 5. I mean, I don't know if I think it's fair to say there will not be any more U.S. aid to Israel or U.S. vetoes in the Security Council to run an interference for Israel within 5 years. Probably.
You really think that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't buy that. I think this is like
perpetual,
say eternal.
Roughly three.
In Trump's term.
Mm-hmm.
I don't foresee that. I see Bibi right there. That man is the eternal flame of love for the United States.
First of all, I think Donald Trump doesn't finish his term, and I think J.D. Vance will be the president. J.D.
That's what I said about Kamala Harris and Biden, but
well, you were right about that, basically.
Ish.
Well, you were basically right.
Look at them. Look at them gazing at each other. Gazing. Look at them. Look at the way Bibi's looking at him like he's going to eat him up for lunch.
Hello, cute.
They have matching ties. It's probably a red Trump tie. Bibi is a salesman, and Trump got sold.
And Trump
is
a salesman too.
Yeah, but I think every salesman meets his match, and I think Bibi is that match.
He totally got grifted, right?
He got BB'd.
Yeah, he did. It's true. All right. And finally, last but not least, at least 80 people, including 28 children, died from those historic flash floods in central Texas Hill Country over the weekend. At least 10 girls and a counselor are still missing from Camp Mystic. That's a Christian girls' summer camp. Camp Mystic is located along the Guadalupe River in an area called Flash Flood Alley. Due to the soil's inability to absorb water effectively, the 100-year-old camp was hosting about 750 kids when a storm began dropping several inches of rain per hour late Thursday night. River waters, fueled by moisture in the air, suddenly rose 26 feet within 45 minutes, shortly before daybreak Friday, the equivalent of months' worth of rain. Over 850 people were rescued within the first 36 hours of the search, including residents of other camps and people living in nearby localities. This account says it's unclear why camp residents weren't evacuated or whether they had received advance notice, but other reports say that, in fact, it's getting pretty clear that one of the culprits here might be Doge. So the National Weather Service did warn that this was likely to happen. It has happened before. It happened in 2015. And so it's not like there weren't models predicting this, but there's a team of National Weather Service workers whose jobs is to pick up the phone and call disaster relief agencies, private and public. And in this case, they would have called the state of Texas and the local municipalities, law enforcement, FEMA, and so on, to say, hey, guys, this is happening. And those people all got doged. They're gone. So
I'm glad you mentioned FEMA.
Yeah.
Because the Big Beautiful Bill doesn't, I guess, Big Beautiful Law at this point.
It's literally a one big beautiful bill act of 2025.
We're Big Beautiful
retard country, no question.
Big Beautiful Law, the BBL.
Yeah.
That's new meaning to the BBL. The BBL, as it were now, because it became official on the 4th of July, there was zero explicit language regarding FEMA. In those 900 pages, I had ChatGPT review the 900 pages.
Oh, wow.
And I sought for any mention of FEMA, disaster relief, or whatever. So there's zero actual mention, but similar to how prior to Trump coming back to office, and that you don't need to you can outlaw abortion, for example, by not outlawing abortion directly. You just make it so that no one can get to an abortion clinic, right? So you
just aren't any. Yeah.
There just aren't any. So for FEMA, while there's no direct mention of them in there, because of all these other cuts to like grants and all, all these other groups that work with FEMA is still standing, though some of their budget has been stripped directly from previous movements from Doge. But all of the groups that would otherwise get funding that work with FEMA, they cannot now appropriately respond to this flooding, this crazy, we're just looking at the video, this crazy flooding in Texas. They can't respond appropriately. And granted, yes, there are going to be viewers that are like, well, look how FEMA, their terrible response in Hawaii. Yes, absolutely. That was all, they're staying in these fancy hotels. But granted, if you've ever been to Hawaii, I've not been, but I've had many friends and family. Every hotel is pretty much fancy hotels. If there's like cheap hotels.
You should tell that to my former in-laws.
Well, cheap hotels, the ones that are like cheap motels and hotels, the locals actually tend to crash there to go surfing or whatever, like when they, they come inland, so it's not usually available. So when FEMA went to Hawaii to try to, do the deal with fire damage, anyway, circling back to what's happening here in Texas.
Obviously, there were the complaints about. There have been a lot of complaints about FEMA over the years, most notably after Katrina in New Orleans in 2005. But this is the Republican thing, right? The Republicans will say this particular government agency doesn't do a good job, and when you're specific, they're saying they're not helping enough people, and they're not giving them enough aid. Okay, so what's the solution to that? The Republican solution is let's get rid of it entirely. So instead of not enough aid, there will be no aid.
No aid. Then you can't complain that they're not really doing a good job.
It's not really a very logical thing. It's sort of like,
but Ted, you can't say they're not doing a bad job.
It's like, let's say you go to a restaurant where all the portions are half as big as they ought to be. Well, the solution isn't to shut down the restaurant so everyone starves, but that's what they're doing.
Yeah, this is, I found a guy that had a drone that was showing surveillance. This guy, he, I guess, lives down there in Texas, and he was doing, this is like independent journalism work, like God bless. Like he went down there with his drone. He's like talking to people on the ground. This is what journalists used to do, Ted, to show us the actual damage.
That flooding is absolutely terrifying. But the thing is, with most of these floods, there's always warnings, Manila.
Yes,
the Asheville floods.
Look at
that happened in North Carolina. I guess it was a year ago. That was it's happened before also, and there were warnings. So it's not like, oh, whoever could have imagined. And so, you could argue that probably there shouldn't be any campsites here at all. Apparently, there was a proposal in one municipality, Kerr County, has an annual budget of $67 million. It would have cost them $1 million of the $67 million, or in addition to build an early warning automated flood warning system that would have basically would trigger alerts to every single phone, and that would have giant alarms and all that.
There's an app for that.
The taxpayers didn't want to pay for it, and it's like the thing I always think about. Robbie and I talked about it in the Rumble Premium thing about Central Asia that we did. Lake Sarez, man, mark those words. Lake Sarez is going to burst. It's in Tajikistan, and it's going to literally kill hundreds of millions of people. People have been warned. We've known. Nobody's doing shit about it. No one cares. It'll literally be the biggest natural disaster in world history. But no one's doing shit about it, even though they see it coming, because it would cost basically about $10 million to fix, and nobody wants to pay that.
Yeah. This is obviously not the same catastrophic flooding that we saw in Hurricane Katrina, but it's still shocking, to this isn't like a breach of the levees. This is just goes to show how intricate and how delicate the emergency response system, and it's so fragile in the US. And we think we're this first world nation, and this shouldn't happen. You're right. It shouldn't happen.
We're not a first world nation.
We pretend
it's
very
not
well.
Fragile. It's just lame. It's inadequate. It's just not
We're
there.
lame. That's true.
Look, honestly, it's like my rule is always like make as many mistakes as you want, but never make the same mistake twice. This same thing happened 10 years ago, right? So this is not new. Okay, if this had never happened before and people didn't see it coming, it would be like, okay, I see what you're saying. Miami Beach, it's going to be underwater in 10 years. People are going to be like, whoa, never saw that coming. Really? Because there's 3 feet of tidal flooding every single day. I think I see it coming, and I'm only a cartoonist. So everybody sees it coming. They're just choosing to close their eyes. And they
right. Same with the fires in California.
This is about money. If we took away that 95% of that $1 trillion a year we're squandering on defense, and we use that here in America for things like this, we'd be all set. We'd be fine.
We might actually be a first world nation.
We'd still have some problems. We'd still have natural disasters. There would still be things that didn't go well. But problems like this, where like they just didn't have the budget and they knew what was coming, no, it's inexcusable.
Yeah, a nation I knock a lot because I lived there. The UAE. There's a lot of problems there when you're in an autocratic society. Like, sure, a lot of things. However, one thing I will say, Ted, is they actually do a pretty good job in prioritizing the money earned from taxes from all the expats that live there and the locals, and how they actually feed. Again, a very small population. I get that. It's apples to oranges in that sense, but they actually feed, house, and healthcare their local Emirati natives, right? They also respond very quickly when they figure out that something is wrong with their infrastructure. Like the freeways Sheikh Zayed Road used to flood. People don't think because it's the desert that it doesn't, when it rains, it can flash flood very quickly.
Oh, for sure. As
it
people
doesn't
who live
absorb.
in the desert in places like New Mexico and Arizona and Nevada know very well here.
I have been on the road when
Texas
Sheikh
has a lot
Zayed
of
Road.
desert.
Right. I have been on the road when Sheikh Zayed Road actually floods, and it was a new road back then in 2008, right? 20 years ago, things were all new, and they're trying to figure out how irrigation works and how to divert floodwaters when it does flash flood rain. So, and they implement those things they take immediate action. And that's because at the time, granted, their spend on their Pentagon is greatly increased because I don't know, for whatever reason, they've had a threat assessment. I don't know, but still they spend tons of money to improve infrastructure for their people that live there, not even just their own local, civilian population, like all the civilians that live there, all the expats that live there. The metro, it's not a metro, it's a rail. It's above ground rail service. It's free to use, Ted. Their monorail is free. Everybody, all the Indian workers that are building
monorail,
all the buildings, their rail system is free. Everybody can use it to go to the mall, to the grocery store. It's free. Like that is one thing I will give kudos.
And you might say, well, why would they do that? And it's like, well, honestly, think about all the business that stimulates. You said, you can take it for free to go to the mall. And so it's frictionless. Like, why not go to the mall? Why not buy some stuff? And then sales taxes are generated and it helps pay for things like monorail. Kids go to school using the rail. They're no longer stuck in their small little shanty village, because there are some of those outside of Dubai. They can now metro, for all intents and purposes, I'm going to call it metro. They can metro in to the city and go to school. They can go to college. It changes everything. And they're likelier to become taxpayers and pay taxes.
It changes everything
to the UAE that they will collect and they can use to build projects like the monorail.
To the credit of the Emiratis, and I talk shit on them quite a bit. However, to their credit, they are taking serious steps in infrastructure to better the lives of the people that live there. And if our U.S. government would only do a little bit of that, we might actually be better. And to Robbie's point, the Emiratis have a very strict immigration system.
Well,
So there's
yeah,
that.
they do. Yeah, no, I mean, for sure.
Very strict. I would know. I was deported.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll leave that there. So, if we did that, then maybe these things wouldn't happen in Texas. These things wouldn't happen, at like Hurricane Katrina. These things wouldn't happen like California, the New Year's fires, the Palisades fires, and that wouldn't have happened if we actually bothered to put water into the hydrants, Ted.
Mm-hmm.
So how about that? That's so weird. All right. That does it for us. I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rall, producer Robbie out there in the background. Thank you for tuning in. You can support this show by subscribing, simply hitting the subscribe button, the follow button, and give us a thumbs up. And of course, follow Putinbot Gaming. Even if you don't watch gaming, it helps. It helps if you just subscribe. Every little bit helps. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you for being here, guys. We'll see you mañana. Adios, amigos. Bye.